Guys, there is a lot happening with the job market and AI right now, and Anthropic has just released what they're calling an AI Exposure Index. Basically, they're showing what jobs are the most exposed to AI. I actually got my news on this originally from Connor on LinkedIn. If you're not following him on LinkedIn already, I don't know what you're doing. This is where you get the best AI news. But there's a lot of really incredible things where they're basically showing you what areas are most exposed to AI, and more importantly, what they're calling the observed AI coverage, meaning, look, AI can do these tasks, but how much of those tasks is being done by AI? And there is some massive discrepancies in different areas. So we're going to be covering that all in the show today. Kicking this over to you, Connor, because you're the first person I saw to report on this, and your post has gone absolutely mega viral. I mean, I see over 1,200 likes on this thing. Tell me about what struck you the most with this kind of labor market impact of AI.
Okay, so first of all, can I just, Jane, can I tell you something I'm so embarrassed about? So like I kind of saw this and I was in the middle of something else. So I like the way that I do LinkedIn posts a lot is like I don't know, like I'll just try to make it as readable as possible, right? So I grabbed the chart from the AI from the what was it called, the exposure index. Grabbed the most interesting chart, which is sort of like a radial chart. Throw it into Canva, kind of called like Anthropic AI Exposure Index, labor market impacts of AI kind of thing. And I just sort of like, I just kind of create a quick thing in Canva about it. But Jaden, I have a typo in there. If anybody wants to go like look, and I misspelled the word, and people just started like crushing me. I'm like, oh no! So I tried to edit it, I couldn't edit it, and then it goes viral. And right now, Jaden has like 130,000 impressions. I'm like, really? This one? This is what you want? So people are like, yeah, no, I don't know how to spell, idiot. I'm like, all right. So anyway, so sorry if that's, and I kept saying like the mistake is mine, not Anthropic. Okay, back back to the topic. But Jaden, this is the world that you and I live in, friend. I just thought this was super interesting because you know why I liked it so much, Jaden? It wasn't hysterical. I think Anthropic does some of the best reporting out there. By the way, McKinsey, BCG, there's a lot of good reporting out there, but a lot of times also they're telling a story, but they're also look. Everybody has their interests, so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think Anthropic's work is just very good, and they just throw things out pretty regularly. So
Mhm.
for this, what they found is something that's probably not that surprising, where it's like management, business, software, things like that are really exposed to this stuff. But the thing, Jane, you sort of like touched on it, is that it's not that companies are firing at very high rates; they're just like hiring less. And this was sort of like, I think this is the big story. It's like this entry level knowledge work that's sort of super quietly shrinking. And this is like that bottom rung of the career ladder that people talk about. And it's just dropping and dropping and dropping. So clearly, like, again, no surprise, computer programmers hugely exposed, like, whereas cooks, mechanics, they're not. But the thing that sort of like I thought was like super interesting was like, uh, and I sort of like wrote this. So I'm just going to like read. Sorry to like read a sentence from my own LinkedIn post here, but it says like the people most at risk now aren't getting fired. They're the sorry. The people most at risk right now are not the ones getting fired. They're the ones who can't get in the door. The early career workers trying to break into knowledge work, and that's what we're seeing, right, Jane? Because like even right now, like there's a jobs report right now. It's sort of like a little glum. You hear Jack Dorsey saying, "Oh, we fired 4,000 people because of AI," which is of course like it's just a complete fabrication. I mean, they did fire people, but it wasn't because of AI. I think the thing, Jaden, that I would sort of like love to get your take on here is also just this in general, but also like this overhang, guys. The gap between what AI can do and how it's showing up in work and in people individually, it's colossal. I cannot express how colossal it is. When you hear people saying it's going to destroy all white collar work, it kind of can right now. The problem is like not the problem. The good thing actually is that like these things are just very slow to dissipate through work, through behaviors. People say like, oh well, we just hired the different people. I'm like, but people are already in those jobs. This stuff is slow to take place. But I cannot emphasize this enough. I wish I had a microphone to the planet. We have to upskill now. Guys, you have to get good on this stuff now. The best protection against losing your job is really understanding how AI can amplify what you do. It's just that. And sorry to sort of soapbox this, but it's just so critical. Anyway, Jaden, you and I talk about that a lot. I just wanted to bring it up.
Okay, well, based off of for the chart, for those that aren't looking at the pictures of the chart, I'm going to explain a couple areas that I think are most striking to me, and that is that AI, what it is best at, what it can really do quite well right now, is management, business and finance, computer and math, um, architecture and engineering, and then also we have like office and admin. And what's interesting is the areas that it's currently doing the most, the area that it's currently being applied to the most is business and finance, computer and math, and office and admin, also sales. And we see that a lot. There's a little bit in legal, a little bit in education, a little bit in arts and media. Those are kind of all the top places that it's currently being used at. But and all of those like legal and arts and media also are some of the top places that it is, has capabilities. Okay, the thing that was the most interesting to me though is where is it the most capable and yet the least used?
Yes, yes.
One of those that might not surprise you is healthcare practitioners. It's pretty good for this, but it's very, kind of small the amount that it's
Nobody's
actually used.
using it. Yeah.
Yep. And you can look at like, well, there's like HIPAA compliance, there's a lot of regulation. It's like tricky. And I think that is a true point. The other one that really blew me away, and I'd be curious your take on this, Connor, architecture and engineering. It is great at this, theoretically. No architecture, no
Nobody.
engineer is touching AI.
Nobody. It's that was an interesting one too. I sort of picked up on that. I thought that, and so this is just, guys, if you're listening to the sound of our voice, this is just Jaeden and Connor talking. Like, we don't have inside information on this. Something on that I'm just guessing is there's certain things obviously with like coding and stuff like that. And I think architecture falls into an interesting category where the AI is exceptional at this, because essentially architecture is a kind of a combination of like design and civil engineering in some way or
Mhm.
another, right?
Yep.
And on the civil engineering front, it's outrageously good, right? But on the sort of like the stylistically, it's sort of like anything else, right? It can kind of come up with a lot of ideas, but people still want a human architect. They don't necessarily want, they want to kind of like hear like, hey, I live in this town. What are people doing? They don't want just like AI being like, this is the cool new thing, right? In the same way, like my daughter Lucy, who's about to turn 15, probably doesn't want AI like dressing her because she knows what's cool. Like, she doesn't want to sort of like hear in theory what's cool, right? The stakes are too high. So I think that in architecture, I can't believe more architects aren't using it. That seems very strange. It is that sort of like massive overhang, but also like, I don't know. So legal is a good example, right? There's a ton of like legal tech. So Jaden, let me just sort of like share my theory on all this, because I was talking to a guy yesterday about this CEO of a company about this yesterday. Kind of a smaller company, but like,
Okay.
but we were just sort of like brainstorming about this. My theory on like why it's like crushing it in coding, why it's crushing it in legal is, and this is what we do with AI mindset with like big companies. We do this big behavioral shifts with some of the biggest companies in the world, and the idea here is that if you are sort of like trying to get people to work in a different way completely, right? Like, they do like name the job, and now you want them to do it with AI. Now they have to like think with AI. It's a behavioral change. It's not AI doesn't really work like a digital transformation. We say this all the time. Digital transformation is like, hey, we're switching out, fax machines for email, or we're switching out this, pencil and paper for Excel. You're doing the same task, but now you're just doing it like the perfect example of this, like a hedge fund, a slower algorithm, now a faster algorithm, right? But you're doing the same thing. Why AI adoption is so slow is that you're asking people to think differently, to take things that they would never use sort of like a computer for something, and now all of a sudden think with it. So it's much more like a person. So what we say is that the reason that adoption is so slow is that your brain just has a hard time looking at software and thinking of it as a person. So why is like legal doing well? It's because legal tech has been around before AI. And so now, instead of like that legal tech, they're just switching it out for AI legal tech, right? Same with software. Software always had these, had GitHub, had a lot of different things, but now you just have it with a faster sort of thing. Whereas in like office and administration, it's not like you had a computer doing something and now you have a better computer doing it. It's like you had a human doing it and now you have to kind of like think how you the change. So one of the things on this radial here, in terms of this overhang, is that like it's easier when you've already been doing something with software and now you sort of like just replace it with AI. It's harder in architecture where you've never used, like tools and things like this and this. I mean, obviously they use some, but now you're asking people to think in a whole different way. I think that's just going to be slower. That's that massive overhang. And it's that massive variance between what AI can do and what people are used to doing.
Yep, 100%. I actually want to show you guys something interesting for anyone watching over on YouTube, but otherwise we'll explain. If you go and search for AI for architecture on Google, you're going to see the top result is actually it's called architecture AI, because I was like, oh, like what tools exist out there? And I'm kind of scrolling through. Okay, literally the top two results are like AI tools you use as an architect on Reddit. So Reddit is like the second result. The first result is called architecture AI. It's literally just a custom GPT that somebody built. So
That's
like
ChatGPT.
Yes, but it's like the entire category of architecture and AI is getting just like is ranking on Google. That should be incredibly a competitive space by just a custom GPT. Which, by the way, you just click a button and it's like, help me design my dream home. And so, like, I just clicked it while you were talking, and it just makes some pictures of like a nice dream home. But like, guys, this custom GPT that makes like 4 pictures of a what your dream home could look like is the number one ranking thing. Okay, contrast that if you go and search for something like code with AI. Okay, we're seeing like people have their sponsored results. There's Claude, ChatGPT, there's Deep AI, there's Devin, there's Cursor, there's Gemini. Like there's all the top companies are trying to crush and rank for this, right? Like it's a super, anyways, it's so fascinating to me that it feels like some industries are completely forgotten. And the other thing that I want to bring up on this chart is that while these are kind of a whole bunch of areas that Anthropic is focused on, there are so many industries that I think get very little attention and people think very little of that this just hasn't touched at all. And it will. I think AI will eventually go everywhere, especially when you start thinking about humanoid robots. But things right now like installation and repair, transportation,
Yeah.
production, construction, like there is just minuscule specks of AI doing anything in these industries right now. And so I think those are areas we should all expect to see grow a lot. If you're interested in building new products, if you're interested in launching new products, I mean, I would look at these charts to kind of decide what areas are good to go after. I mean, if you're trying to start a new AI company, architecture and engineering, where the models are very capable and the usage is very low, and you literally would have to compete with a custom GPT, like this seems kind of like a no brainer. So, anyways, as far as um, as far as servicing new customers, I think these charts are also pretty interesting for looking at that.
Yeah, well, that's an entrepreneur talking out of Jaeden, right? So Jaeden just is, next week Jaden's going to have like, Jaden's architecture AI or something like that.
My wheels are
But even
spinning.
for like just everybody out there, even if you're not like an entrepreneur, if you're not like the, mad scientist like Jaeden, the idea is there's just so much room to grow here. I was just talking to the college kids about this. They're like, what should we go into? I was like, listen, it doesn't matter what you go into. What matters is when you get into a company that you are able to sort of like figure out how AI can really sort of like change processes in. Don't
Yeah,
worry about just like if you're using AI. Nobody cares if you're using AI. People care if you can help them change a process or a workflow and if you can elevate your team. That's it. Don't focus on you getting great at AI. The most important thing is, can you sort of like elevate everybody else? And just this chart to me shows the huge opportunities out there, guys. And this is the thing, right? Like you have so many opportunities. We're so grateful that you guys like chime in here and get in here and leave us comments, ratings, and reviews. We love ratings and reviews. We're so grateful for them. Also, please don't forget to check out AIbox.ai, Jaden's company, which allows you to check out all these models and compare and contrast them all together, which is what I do all the time anyway. Build your own workflows, build your own apps, all this kind of like really cool stuff, put stuff on the marketplace. Jaden was just sort of showing how architecture AI blew up. Guys, you can build this stuff on AIbox.ai. If it feels intimidating, this is where you go, AIbox.ai. Next time you see us, hear our voice, you are going to be a multi-millionaire because of this. Absolute guaranteed results with an asterisk. Guaranteed results are not guaranteed. But guys, do check it out. It's like a super fun way to kind of get started on this. So check it out, and we will see you in the next episode.